as well as the research institutions should focus in this area, that how this basic consumption can be met without overloading the carbon carbon quantity into the whole system. Similarly, if there are avoidable consumptions, why can't, and they have very high carbon footprints, why can't we discourage them? How do we discourage them? One is the dictatorial method of saying that, okay, hence onwards, consumption of XYZ, I don't want to give the name of anything, XYZ will not be done. But there is other way also. You do a punitive fiscal arrangement, institutionalize it. And if you have that type of disaggregated fiscal regime for basic, desirable and avoidable consumption, then not only you will generate resources for funding the research to reduce carbon footprints, you also impact the consumption to mitigate the carbon footprints which are accumulating because of the consumption. I really don't know whether it will be a very good idea to talk about that, okay, you stop buying children new clothes every year or things like that. Or for that matter, telling ladies and gentlemen, he talked about ladies only, but I'm talking about both ladies and gentlemen not to use the shampoo. But the point is that if we can work out a supply chain where things can reach the remotest village and the last house on a mountain, the shampoo, or for that matter toothpaste or a toothbrush, then why can't we have a supply chain management which takes care of those non-recyclable residue back to a place where it can be converted into something else. I mean, one can always say that instead of toothbrush you use neem ka dhatu. That's one way. There's no harm in that. It's a great idea. But at the same time, there is no harm in having that the disaggregated consumption labels which are available in the remote areas. Whatever residue comes out of that after the usage or after the end of the useful life, it is taken back to the place where it is available in a critical mass, where it can be recycled, reused, or given a decent burial. Then we were talking about the funding. So I have flagged one aspect of the funding of the environmental concerns, which is by having a differentiated fiscal regime for basic, desirable and avoidable goods. Now there are other areas also. Suppose let us learn something from not our religions. It is not specific to Hindu or Muslim or Christian. All religions, they never fall short of resources. Why? Ask this question. Then you will realize, because there you have the flexibility to contribute. If you want to donate 50 rupees, you can donate 50 rupees. If you want to donate chandi ka kada, you can do chandi ka kada. If you want to donate your locket, you can do that. So that means it is able to accept contributions from individuals which are not, that unless you give me 10,000 rupees, I will not accept your contribution. So what is required is probably, I think, in this area where the simple messaging on WhatsApp, Facebook, etc. can be converted into a useful information. Should be possible technically to create a platform where if I want to donate 10 rupees, I should be able to donate 10 rupees. If you want to donate 50 rupees or 2,000 rupees, you should be possible to do it. So what I have given it a name, a platform to aggregate quantum contributions of both goods and both cash and time. Now, this is a big challenge, according to me, in what you call it the social engineering, or whatever way you like to put it. So these are the two things which I feel can generate enough resources to fund the research, both in product design, as has been pointed out, as well as the new innovations in supply chain areas. And third thing which he can do is that if we are able to create an institutional arrangement where we are able to reward innovations which has been unleashed by the community on the basis of their carbon load mitigation. India is very famous for its jugaad, but then this temperament is not directed. It's not directed towards X, Y, or Z. So if we can create a system where people can, the jugaad can be evaluated, that by this jugaad, the carbon footprints had been reduced by 75% or 30%, and are able to give it recognition, financial support, then probably the extra load which will be generated because of this product design, supply chain arrangement, innovation on the formal institutions, that can be shared by the informal community. So these are the three things which I thought I will flag, and if there are questions, I should be happy to relate to it.
Thank you very much, and thank you, sir. And this comes after 35 years in government. I mean, and I've been trying to basically, these kind of issues are so difficult that in 1992, when I was covering the American election, George Bush Sr. called Albert Gore the ozone man. He became vice president after that. Because when we talk about sustainability, when we talk about climate change, we talk about circular economy, everything sounds so technical and so difficult. So that's why we have to keep it, breaking it down to level of shampoos and all that. There are myths which Nishtha was talking about. The latest myth which has been busted in India is that women 25 plus in tier 2 and tier 3 towns are the largest consumer of Netflix and Amazon Prime. So this is the new thing which is happening. So the consumption, we are talking about where to meet women. Okay, it's Netflix. Now, more and more you talk about going out there. It's also at the Asha Center, I think, which is the biggest place for women to meet. That's also let's not face Anganwadi, Asha Center. So these are the places where we can go. But as we talk about the economy, how and Haleem Sahab, Khan Sahab ने ये नहीं बताया कि government क्या कर सकती है, because I have a very good example very quickly of how governments don't see what they are doing about climate change. G20 summit 2013, I think, or 2012 was held at St. Petersburg. Lo and behold, where? At the Tsar's palace. So we had 3,000 correspondents who were at the Tsar's palace in St. Petersburg, where the G20 leaders were there. I was with the Prime Minister at that time. So everything, the whole town had to be moved to St. Petersburg at palace with 20,000 delegates. And now you can imagine that the G20 document, 394 pages of that, if there was 2 words changed in it, then it has to be printed and circulated 500 times among all those people. So those are the kind of things, the governments don't think. They were all doing very good. I mean, nothing came out of that finally. But we are still discussing those documents at G20s. But and that's where, the Swedish government comes in for a lot of praise, and what they've been thinking about it. I'm a very early convert to IKEA, about 35 years ago. and been to the plant and all that, and other things which are there. How the government and corporate world collaboration, you talked about collaboration today, can work. How corporate to corporate collaboration can work. One fine thing which ties up everything, I'll just give you one example. If we have jackets which I think are being built by Patagonia or someone, which are refitted from earlier jackets. So when the design goes out of fashion, you have a new design of a new jacket. You can have double layer or triple layer jackets. So you don't have to buy 3 jackets for 3 seasons. You keep taking the layers off, and that's where the design comes in. There's the whole circular economy and design thinking. That's where it comes from, and that's where the countries which have been ahead in innovation have to help other countries. And I would ask Anders here to talk about. I'm coming to you in the end because you have the most to explain. The corporates. Okay. How can, I mean, we've heard a lot about government to government. Just gave you the example about the G20 and how it works. How can the governments, without getting governments into things, how can corporate of one country can help, say, non-profits of another country or corporates of other countries, and create an environment where the issues about environment are at top of your mind?
Good question. First, I would like to comment on a few things that was earlier said here from Nishtha and Vishvesh. I didn't mention that before when I spoke, but women participation is also key in the Swedish story of how we have become one of the most sustainable economies in the world. And that's looking beyond women as housewives and their participation and contribution in that sense, but also ensuring their inclusion in the workforce at large, of course. Because you can imagine that also corporate decisions would be more sustainable with more women in the workforce, and of course also in government and policy making. So that's really key, and something that we as Sweden in all our efforts are underlining with feminist foreign policies, feminist foreign trade policies, and also very key in our narrative. The other comment I would like to make in terms of what you showed, Vishvesh, was that we do believe that it's key also to find incentives in terms of monetization in various ways, and also maybe also striving towards a new way of actually defining monetization and business case for being sustainable. A simple example: what is the cost of coal? When I mentioned before, I was posted in Indonesia for 4 years, and Indonesia has roughly the same energy mix as India with a large coal capacity. Now it's easy to argue that you will need more and more energy for your economic growth, and thereby coal is the only alternative. But if you look through it in a more circular economy fashion, on a total cost of ownership way, you would find that coal is pretty expensive to burn to fuel your energy needs. It has tremendous impact on health of the population, also other sectors such as tourism, etc. So my point being, we probably need to understand and agree upon how we calculate the benefits of being sustainable, and I think we will find out more and more that it is quite efficient and profitable to be sustainable in many aspects. Now, back to your question, Pankaj, how corporates between countries can work even closer together. And I was bringing up the example of co-creation. Sweden, again, is a small economy, but we have quite a large share of multinationals, and Mr. David will showcase what Sandvik is doing as one of them. We do realize that the Swedish market is way too small for us to prosper. We need to, we are a very export-dependent country, but we're also very dependent on setting up local value chains and local supply chains in the countries where we operate as companies. Now, in order for that to be successful, we cannot, again, like I said before, sit in a fancy R&D office in Stockholm and come up with great things. We need to co-create with our Indian partners in this case, and that is what I think we are more and more leaning to in terms of innovation, to have market-driven, frugal, cost-conscious innovation that actually works in the various markets that we operate throughout the world. So I would say it's an imperative for us to be successful as an exporting nation and exporting companies to work together wherever we are in the world and depending on the context we operate in. There is a fantastic, during my 4 months here in India, I've encountered a fantastic skills availability in various sectors of the Indian economy. There's just by the numbers, the number of STEM graduates and exceptionally talented people, and thereby also corporations that can contribute in this. The talent is definitely here. So for India, you are in a great position, I would say, compared to many other countries, because you have an abundance of great people, which is a good starting point. So it's not only that we want to, but we need to, and that goes also the other way around for Indian companies looking abroad, Sweden and other markets. You, of course, will need to adapt your products to fit the market needs. If it's tomatoes, that was mentioned earlier today, and the size of those, which is a silly example, but of course also more advanced technical products. This is the way it will happen. Governments can do their part for policy making and paving the way, but in the end it's the corporations that will have to make this happen. So we do encourage a lot of more local innovation ecosystems. We do our part as a Swedish government and Business Sweden in this case here in India to facilitate that, and that's the best we can do. But we see more and more interest and actually realities that companies are working very close together. And that's also for the benefit of all.
Yeah, thank you, and great to hear the very encouraging words from you. But India and any other country needs local solutions for local problems, which may not be Scandinavian problems. Like you don't have problem with tomatoes, because the life of a tomato is higher in Europe than it's in India. And you can keep a tomato for longer time without freezing it, without processing it. And I just saw something in Rajasthan, which is a very dry state. Students from IIT Kharagpur have come up with a small freezing or cold storage sort of a thing, which is a small unit. It's not a storage, it's not a building. It's just one container, which keeps the tomatoes and perishable food for 15 days. So the age goes up. And those are the kind of things I think the government can help in creating local innovation labs. Like people like this at the IITs and IIMs who are working on this. Like IIM, you're working in supply chain, and IITs, you're working at these small solutions, which are very Indian problematic solution. Now, if you look at tea packaging in India, I had a company which had a problem because it's organic tea, but in the bag there is a staple. It's a very Indian problem. If there's a staple, it's not organic, and you can't sell it in the global market as organic. So you have to find, for a very small thing, you need a very big solution, which can come from a company like Sandvik, that how to package this tea without using any staple. And it will be very good, because that part, that number one, it's that steel which you cannot recycle, it's very small, it's staple. Number two, that you lose all the money which you'll get as an organic product if you use that staple. And that's where technology comes in. And that's where the support from countries and the companies who are technologically advanced, that comes in. And that's very important. And at Sandvik, one of the oldest companies which has had, I think, in India presence since 60s or 50s.